Cyril, Rocke, CEO of DataOne Asia. Thank you for joining us. Let's get straight to it. Looking at partnerships and collaboration, lots of it is happening in the data center industry. So, how do you see this evolving for data centers in Philippines and the region, and what potential opportunities does it create for investors?
All right. So, Chanton, thank you for the question. So this is a very broad question. I will try to bring insights from different angles. So first of all, I'm the CEO of DataOne, a company that was originally established by the Keppel Group of Singapore 20 years ago. So the company that I run belongs to the first wave of data centers that were built more than 20 years ago, alongside with Vitro and Globe. So we have seen major changes in the industry. A lot of things have happened from the advent of cloud, hyperscalers, and the growth, the massive growth of IoT and demand for data and storage, 5G, etc. So uh, I think now what we're experiencing is the second wave. And this second wave is different in terms of size and scale and power. When we started in the industry, the power allocation per rack was about 2 kVA, 3 kVA at most on average. Now we're talking about 10 times more. So the industry has changed completely in the sense that what is driving it in the Philippines is the hyperscalers. Um, the number of data centers, the size, and the power requirement uh, for all these data centers. I don't know exactly how many have been announced, but we're talking about tens of thousands of racks and an aggregate, I was told, of 1,000 megawatt. So 1,000 is a major challenge because the Philippines doesn't have its own sources of energy. So mostly coal powered. And if you want to keep ESG and decarbonization in mind, this is going to be a major challenge. Not to mention that that power may not be readily available. So the main driver for this wave of investment is really hyperscalers. There's no other way to justify those investments. So there's a lot of movements happening as well from certain limitations in Singapore, which is reshuffling a bit the card of where data center assets should be located. Another driver is concerns about data sovereignty. So this is a topic I've been very vocal about for more than 10 years, but now it started, I think, to sink in. And governments realize everywhere that strategic industries should maintain their data in country. Otherwise, you're exposed to any kind of risk. So now that you have all those data centers focused on hyperscalers who are global buyers of resources, it makes sense to have network of data centers or cooperation with global investors, say from Singapore, who might have customers, hyperscalers customers who want to relocate either from Singapore or from China or from Hong Kong or other places. So the network and access to the hyperscalers is important. Now, aside from that, a number of data center investors have engaged with have mentioned that they want also to target the retail market, which means the local enterprise market. And the local enterprise market is quite a different story because you're not talking about a deal of 500 racks or 200 racks or whatever. You're talking about a lot less. And you're talking about issues about IT and IT services. So you have to become much more of an IT service provider than a provider of data center, space, power, cooling, aircon, and even connectivity, because these become a basic offering. So where there can be cooperation with, say, global players, and players like us, which are 100% focused on the retail, corporate, local market, is how to address that market.
So you've mentioned IT service providers. Can you give us some examples? What are those services, additional services that is required from data centers?
So actually, it's a very important question because I have been in that business for 20 years already. And my view is that corporate customers, the basic offering, of course, is colocation, which is a space, secured power, cooling, and connectivity, diversity. So everybody speaks about being a telco neutral data center. I want to state here that we have been the first one who were telco neutral because we're not affiliated to any telco. Currently, we have 6 telco terminating directly in the data center. We are going to add a seventh one. So this is significant. But apart from that, what customers, corporate customers want is a move towards OPEX models. So there's a massive wave globally from all IT vendors to move toward OPEX models, outsourcing, managed services. Gone are the days, or we are transitioning still from corporate owned data centers where businesses buy the servers and have their own IT team and manage everything and are experts in everything. They are moving towards colocation, leasing of their ITs, servers, and outsourcing certain functions that they used to do themselves.
Is is cost a main consideration for this move?
It's not really cost because in the Philippines, uh, IT resources are cheap. It's more that more and more, actually, there are two drivers for that. More and more highly qualified IT resources are looking for better paid opportunities with other IT companies, BPOs like Accenture and company, and you cannot retain those skills internally in a corporate environment. So you're losing skills, number one. And another major eye opener, I believe, is the COVID pandemic, where businesses decided to reduce their real estate footprint and started to question the need for having their own data center. First of all, if we shrink the real estate, why should we have our own data center? And then our people are working from home, so why do we even need our own IT team? It would be cheaper, but more importantly, more reliable to outsource it, because what you want to have is certainty that your core IT infrastructure is 100% reliable, operates 100% of the time, is not subject to cyber attacks, properly backed up, 24/7 supported. So the main drivers is to set expectations and to ensure that there's an outcome that's being delivered.
Thank you. Um, the demand for data centers is driven by the growth of cloud computing, as we mentioned, e-commerce and digital transformation. So, what specific market trends or indicators do investors pay attention to when assessing the viability of investing, especially in a country like the Philippines data center market per se? And is that trend a reflection of a regional trend as well?
Well, it seems to be the case. So certainly the investors in the new generation of data centers have made their research. There was a time 20 years ago where nobody would contemplate locating mission critical data centers in the Philippines because of the risks perceived, whether natural disasters, seismic, volcano, floods, etc. But actually, an interesting point is what drove the BPO industry in the Philippines was the availability of submarine cable connection. Already 20 years ago, there was an overcapacity, therefore it was cheap. And this capacity has grown and makes the Philippines very attractive as a site for data centers relocated from other places. But another input is not just the real estate or the connectivity, but power. So the next question, I think, is to be left to the data center operator is how do you achieve cost competitive cost of power in the Philippines, considering that's going to be probably 30% of your cost structure. But not only that, uh, can you generate at least 50% or 100% of your power from renewable sources? That will be the key strategic differentiator. Now, the good news is the Philippines is well placed to provide that because of geothermal resources, wind farms, and solar resources. So hopefully this is the direction of those data centers because now we need to deliver 1000 megawatt and hopefully not from coal.
How important, you touched on renewable energy, right, and sustain. So how important is sustainability and it becoming in the data center industry from an investment standpoint? What are the key considerations when evaluating the sustainability practices and initiatives of a data center operator before making investment decisions?
All right. So actually, this is a very important question. One of the key characteristics of data centers is that their power consumption, when at scale, is very stable and predictable. So you can say, I'm going to consume 20 megawatt day and night of power. And because of that, you can enter into a contract with the power producers. So in the Philippines, even below 1 megawatt, you are considered a contestable market and you can contract directly with the power producer. So that would allow you to pick up who is your supplier and pick up suppliers of renewable energy. I think what's going to drive the demand for renewable is not the data centers for reason of cost, or I'll come back to that, but the fact that the hyperscalers of this world have their own ESG objectives. And it would not make sense for the Facebook of this world to relocate to the Philippines and increase coal-fired power plants. It has to be something else. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose, right? So, uh, renewable energy, the demand for that is going to come from the consumers themselves. Even corporate customers that we have, multinationals, ask us how much of your energy is derived from renewable sources. So that will come from the customers. Now you have a cost issue. Recently, the cost of electricity in the Philippines moved very significantly from, say, 8 peso per kilowatt hour to 12 peso within a couple of months. So it's more than 60% increase. So you can imagine the impact on your bottom line if electricity is part of your price because you absorb to a price that price. By comparison, you can generate electricity from solar sources at below 5 peso. So not only it can be cheaper, but it can be predictable. So it can be a risk mitigation policy to source your energy from renewable sources, as well as being part of your ESG policy. So it makes a lot of sense.
So is the efforts made by data center in their initiative towards sustainability efforts, is that a key consideration for investors looking to venture into DC?
Probably not at the beginning, but they know that their customers will ask for it. So what has happened is the total capacity of renewable production in the Philippines has already been subscribed to. It has always been bought. So there's a need to build additional capacity. So in my sense, uh, investors into data center should at the same time look at power generation from renewable sources. These are not two separate issues. They are issues that are totally attached.
Final question. What are your predictions on the future of sustainability in data center, maybe in the Philippines? How do you see it? How do you see it moving forward?
Well, I have read that in Ireland, the power consumption from data centers is 10% of the national consumption. In Singapore, it's 7%. Here, it may reach similar numbers. It doesn't make sense at a time where we're talking about global warming and COP22 or whatever number we are with, that we don't look at that issue. So it has to be part and parcel, in fact, core issue of the data centers that are coming up.
Excellent. Cyril, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you.